It's crazy how Taj appears just as Drumstick disappears. Taj had been disappeared for 50 years, so his sudden appearance, just as Drumstick disappears, seems to suggest that he is like an underground version of Drumstick. When Drumstick disappears, the disappeared genie returns, as a warning or as a last resort, precisely because the island is in grave danger, and this grave danger is symbolized by the hero disappearing, Drumstick. When the hero disappears, the island is in danger, and so a sort of self-defense mechanism appears where Taj comes back to give his help. I could also read it as if Wizpig the pig, the greedy ego maybe, again, because that's how egos tend to be depicted, not because pigs are bad, right? When the island is covered by the shadow of ego, of following one's own desires at the expense of love, so to say, the hero disappears. That's what it means, because the hero is the ego that stands as a leader to the group. The hero was meant to save and protect, but if ego grows, the hero stops being a viable option. Now, salvation only comes from the depths, the hidden unconscious, which would be Taj, the genie. Hilariously, this happens the other way around for Diddy. Diddy is saved by his warning call because he was terribly bored at his parents' house under parent restrictions. So the manual creates a double slide here, where the left side of the story is Diddy's perspective and the right side is Timber and the other's perspective. Both columns begin with a message being received, a call for help. Timber and the rest receive a message from Pipsy, who is desperately trying to communicate that Taj has come back to help them. That's the good news, the message that she's trying to convey. They're saved because someone is coming to help them. Diddy receives a call for help, and this saves him. He is saved because someone needs his help, and this means he can put his energy to use. Both situations interact in this way. Both save each other. Weirdly, what this means is that Diddy here becomes a hero, which is what Drumstick was, which is what ego is. But ego is what has grown to generate the problem they have now on the island, Wizpig. I think the remedy and the ailment are interconnected here. Diddy says the call for help sounds promising. He enjoys the problem they have at Timber Island. The problem which the others don't enjoy, but see as a cause for concern. However, without Diddy's enjoyment of trouble, of adventure, so to speak, he wouldn't have the courage to gladly go and help them. He needs to slightly enjoy the fact that a problem has occurred. And this is ego. It's Diddy's enjoying things for his own pleasure. This tendency in him is what helps defeat Wizpig. However, Wizpig's creation, in my reading, is precisely as the result of overinflated ego, overinflated desire to enjoy one's own pleasure. I think part of this is why the game solves itself. The interconnection of opposites, of light and dark, etc., is where salvation is shown to be in the game. Or, rather, a message being conveyed in the interconnection between opposites. This message is the message Pipsy hears about the return of Taj, the spirit of the mountain, and of how he's here to help. So maybe it's not so much that there is a problem that needs a solution, but that the interconnection between problem and solution sends a message outward which, when heard, speaks of liberation. It is the message itself, or the hearing, the being aware of the interconnection, which resolves the conflict. I'm very curious what relationship this has to Diddy's being alone in his parents' house, whereas Timber is not alone, with friends at a parentless house, away from the limitations of parenthood. Diddy is sick of being with his parents. Not only is he with his parents, he's with Timber's parents. He's with a parent's overdose. It's a world that has nothing to do with him or his desires. It's a parent meetup for parent-related fun, not his type of fun. So let's say this is a structure he's caught in. Let's say this isn't just a one-time event, but something he's permanently trapped in. He's like the archetype of being trapped at your parents' house. Of course, Freud comes to mind and makes me think of being trapped not physically at your parents' house, but being psychologically trapped by the mental and emotional habits of people above you in authority, who tower above you. It could be your actual parents, but it could also be tradition, society, etc. All of the rules and regulations that are a part of your psychology but which you'd rather get rid of. However, Timber seems to represent the other side of the equation. Timber's island is lacking organization and structure. They have a group of people, but no leader, no hero. I don't think this needs to mean literally a person who is a leader, but again, as the parents were symbolic in Diddy's case, I could say that the hero here is symbolic of willpower itself, leadership in the abstract sense, in the sense that every ego can feel it. There are egos, Timber, Pipsy, etc., but they have no way of organizing their willpowers together to create something that helps them. In fact, because of this maybe, Wizpig has arrived. Wizpig is here, you could say, because the parents have gone away. Wizpig is the parents, the parental authority, but childlike in its desires. It simply wants to win, to destroy, to have fun. So something is going on here. The hero is ethical action, doing the right thing. Maybe, and I'm speculating here, Diddy's parent house is a place of doing the right thing. But this has coagulated into a structure that doesn't serve him. That would explain his comment that it's too quiet or boring. There's no trouble or problems because probably there are all sorts of structures in place, responsibilities being fulfilled, daily routines, regular meals, traditions that have been kept in place because precisely they have kept a sort of stable order for a long time. However, Diddy is the living example that no matter what system of traditions or order, it will stifle someone, it will cause boredom or suffering for someone. It won't allow someone to express themselves or act or live as they would want to, as Diddy finds. In that case, he needs to do the right thing, but it's a right thing that presumably goes against the parental wish, since Timber hopes no parents ever find out about this adventure. On the other hand, Timber Island is parentless, so it somehow seems to represent a lack of order, a place where children roam free to play. It also signals this because it is, in itself, a sort of amusement park, an island filled with racetracks and places to play and have fun. It's a fun land. And what our characters say they want is a champion, a hero. They need someone to beat Wizpig, so they need the qualities of discipline, responsibility, etc. that would allow someone to reach that goal. Exactly the sort of discipline and responsibility which Diddy's parents' house had too much of, therefore making it too quiet, in Diddy's words, too stifling and uncreative. So, to solve this bind between them, I want to turn to a material piece of structure from the game. Let's look at Jungle Falls, the level. There's something about this level which I think plays into this. The name of this level makes reference to waterfalls, I would think, and we see two of them in this level. So I'm going to say that these two waterfalls are the Jungle Falls of this level. I find this curious because they're just in front of a door to a temple. And this temple itself is already divided into two, like two sections joined at the door. The door, moreover, is also doubled with two possible entrances. So I think the fact that we have two waterfalls to decorate this entrance makes the number 2 overall important here. Also, the temple gives way to a whole series of strange rock formations and the dinosaur's mouth which you go into. The key word for me here is religion. The temple is a religious temple, I would assume, if it's a mimic of the Indiana Jones temples or any other religious temples which Rareware places in its jungle levels. Twin waterfalls flank this temple and a bridge that leads us to it. I find this echoes perfectly the entrance to Wizpig's mouth, which is also Taj's statue, his mountain. We're told he's the genie of the island and lives in the mountain, so the mountain itself feels like a sacred place, a place of spirits. It is flanked by two waterfalls on either side of this entrance. I want to think what this twinness could mean here. We have the temple which is twinned itself. It is a temple to duality, perhaps. After entering it, you enter a mouth, like the Whizbig one. So again, the spirit of the mountain and the spirit of the temple coincide with placing you in a mouth, as if being devoured were an act of entering a temple, a place of worship. What would a temple be in this context? A place where you enter in contact with the divine, with something more morally elevated? That's what happens to Pipsy, and precisely the place or temple where she enters into contact with Taj is duality itself, but more the union of opposites, in herself as a mouse. So maybe the temple has a double structure, a mirror door, etc., because it is a temple that unites the opposites. And this is where the divine is found. The divine, in this case, seeming to represent what helps defeat Whizbig and bring harmony to the world.